Welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Here's a question that nobody asks. Why are Democrats so angry? Just days from now, the Democratic Party is likely to retake the House of Representatives, and with it, meaningful political power. Nearly every poll predicts that will happen. We'll see. But Democrats ought to be cheerful and confident. Instead, they look like this.
You are supporting Nazis. Do you
like
understand that?
Communism?
Yeah, I am.
Way more people
Don't
do.
pour your coffee on me.
You, I will.
Than the Nazis?
What is
Do you
wrong with you?
understand that fascism is here?
What is wrong
Y'all
with
understand
you?
that Nazis are
wrong
here?
with-
I hope y'all realize that you are normalizing and enabling Nazis.
Sorry.
And you can film me. I don't give a Do you really care?
Yeah.
Do you?
Here, have a jacket.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have a jacket.
The video you just saw was shot at Florida State University, but it could have been any college campus or anywhere else that progressives congregate. Effing Nazis. If the left had a slogan right now, that would be it. It's not an expression of political ideology, it's a scream of rage. It's not aimed at actual Nazis either. The group progressives are yelling at, the real enemy, is America's middle class, which they consider disgusting and immoral. Watch them explain.
You have racism and sexism driving this president's voting base, and we have to call that out. We have to address that.
We all know Make America Great Again is Make America White Again. And I think there's a bigger racist part of this country. Look, we're seeing it, we're living it. That's what Donald Trump is betting this election on.
He does have to take some responsibility for the type of racist bioclimate that we find ourselves in, which, Jake, is not new. This is, and you hear me say this all the time, this is in the DNA of America.
It's in the DNA of America, so the country that vanquished the Nazis is itself a Nazi country. That's their position. Is this something Democrats are saying in order to get out the vote next Tuesday? Probably not. It's hard to see how that would be an effective campaign tactic. They're saying it because they really mean it. The left is so angry they can no longer reason. Think back a few years ago to all the public figures that you once considered impressive. You might not have agreed with their politics, but there was no question they were serious people. David Gergen, Bill Kristol, James Clapper. Where are those people today? Well, they're foaming and ranting on Twitter like drunk children. How about John Brennan? Not so long ago, Brennan ran the CIA. That's a serious job. Here's what John Brennan sounds like now.
He is feeding and fueling hatred and animosity and misunderstandings among Americans. I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous because it is a betrayal of the nation. He is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Treasonous is defined as a betrayal of trust as well as aiding and abetting the enemy. And so that was the word that came to my mind.
Treason, aiding and abetting the enemy. People didn't used to say things like that in public, not for a long time. Now it's just another midday panel on MSNBC. Meanwhile, the rest of us are far less free to say what we think than we were just a few years ago. Our culture grows less open and more stifling by the day. Comedians no longer tell unapproved jokes. Scientists must abandon politically unpopular research. Ordinary people live in fear that a snitch from the sensitivity department down the hall will catch them in even the smallest violation of the liberal catechism, and they'll be fired and humiliated. The left is clamping down with maximum force on dissent. They demand nothing less than total obedience to their ever-expanding programs, whose outlines change and are confusing. Step out of line, though, and they will hurt you. So why is the left doing this? Well, because they're losing, and they know it. Take a step back for a minute. Is humorless political correctness the hallmark of self-confidence? No, it's just the opposite. Victorious armies don't behave like this. Crumbling regimes do. This is how you act when you feel your power slipping away. Democrats will likely win the election on Tuesday. They may win the next election, too. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because their program is over. It doesn't work. Voters are rejecting their ideas, and they're doing it around the world. In country after country, globalism and cultural liberalism are dying. If you watch CNN, you might conclude that America is somehow an international pariah for having a president who calls himself a nationalist. But if anything, Trump is just one among many. How many major democracies still have governments even close to as liberal as the American Democratic Party? Almost none of them. It's all moving in the opposite direction, and it's moving at high speed. Voters everywhere want their leaders to care about and protect them. The globalist left can never deliver on that because they cannot acknowledge that the concerns of one country might outweigh those of any other country. It would be as if your parents loved the neighbor's kids as much as they loved you, maybe more. You would hate that. Voters hate that. That's why, as long as democracy is allowed, the globalist left is doomed. Progressives know that. They can smell it, and it terrifies them. So they crack down on the population. In the end, that will not work. You can't bully and harangue your own people forever. There is a limit, and we are reaching that limit. Keep this in mind as you watch the election returns on Tuesday night. What we're seeing is not the ascendance of the modern Democratic platform, but its death throes.